services. Legendary platforms drive your growth. At eCarrierCheck, we are redefining logistics with advanced filters to effortlessly match you with the best carriers and shippers. Find enriched shipper leads effortlessly by industry, location, size, equipment, and more. Connect with decision makers directly and bypass gatekeepers to maximize your potential. Thousands of shipper leads at your fingertips. With real-time updates and niche exploration, your ability to find new customers is easier than ever. Take control of your business with our AI-powered carrier search. Utilize over 40 filter options and instantly see key insights like authority status, equipment types, and risk factors. Gain access to carriers outside of load boards. Effortlessly vet new carriers, avoid double brokers, and streamline your hiring process. Take your logistics to the next level with eCarrierCheck. Visit us at eCarrierCheck.com to learn more. eCarrierCheck, where logistics meets innovation.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning to everyone on TikTok. We are on YouTube Live if you want to head over there. Jared, good morning, man.
How are you?
I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
It's hump day, man.
It's hump day, and it's just you never know what to expect in the trucking industry, or if anyone that's not in the industry for trucking, but anything in sales, right?
Yeah.
It's just you just never know what you're gonna get.
Oh man, I've had the opportunity to do some calls this week, and it's not any different, right? It's still tough to connect with people. It's still tough to make these calls, and
it's tough to get in the right mindset.
It is. It's been a fun week though.
Tierce,
what's up, brother? We didn't have comments working last week, so I'm excited that we got them today.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened exactly. Something that I wanted to talk about a little bit this morning before we get into pipeline management and all this stuff. Man, I tell you what, the 2024 Inbound Logistics 3PL Perspective Report came out, and this is a hot whip.
Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly what we talk about all the time, but broken down into if you haven't seen this, it's well worth to go. Just go out, Google 2024 Inbound Logistics 3PL Perspectives Report, because this is wild. This is wild. We'll just go through these. Here's some of the statistics. Are you ready? Rising operational costs. 73% of 3PLs report higher costs, up 62% from 2023.
Wow.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
62%. I mean, can you imagine?
Dramatic.
Yeah, that's crazy. Customer retention. I think this is probably one of the more interesting ones, more so because this is what we talk about, right? Is 45%. So nearly half of people are struggling to find and keep customers. 45%. Well, we hear it every day. Well, I need a customer. I helped a guy, with writing an email script earlier this week. We were doing some cold calling and doing things like that. And, gone are the days of, I got a truck in your area. Now people are saying, I really want service, right? Profit pressures, 26% face profitability issues. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. That was 16% in 23. Finding and training qualified workers is a concern for almost nearly 60% of 3PLs that are out there. Well, we see that all the time, right? We see the people that come into this industry. We're seeing, some of those old timers kind of move on, or they don't want to maybe adapt to the new ways, you know what I mean? Or adapt to those kind of the new pressures that are out there, right? AI adoption. 87% expect AI to revolutionize operations. Seeing what, our programmers can do, seeing what we've seen. We use AI a lot.
Right. Yeah, it does. I mean, it does make life easier. You know what I mean? So I can see why people that aren't used to it, they're not, they're used to with their Rolodex and, paper and things like that. So, I mean, it's definitely changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you use it correctly, that is.
But yeah, exactly. Service offerings, you're starting to see green logistics focus on sustainability rises.
What's up, T. Landy?
Cutting costs, shipping concerns, shipper concerns. Here's directly from shippers. 41% of shippers prioritize reducing transportation costs. I mean, that's always going to be your job.
Yeah.
Right. Boy, I tell you what, when it comes down to cost, though, people are looking for a better quality of service, right? Here's more shipper concerns. Concerns in business processes, improvements, concerns about enhanced customer service. Yeah, poor cited services cited by 36% of shippers as top deal breaker, down from 60%. So if you are not servicing a customer, that's really what they care about. Right. I know that costs are there, but everyone's got a boss. So we're all trying to, I got to cut costs. Right. 21% of shippers cite costs as a top reason for ending partnerships, up 11%. Obviously you can only make so much on one load. Why skin the cat all in one shot? Right. You know what I mean? Right. Despite cost concerns, 74% of shippers say service is more important than price. I totally agree. I've always been in that mindset that, for me, it's really all about customer service. It's about servicing those people. In fact, even when we've talked to these shippers, we hear this a lot, Nate, is, how do we service our clients better than other brokerages? You know what I mean? Like, right. What is it that we're doing that's different from everybody else? Everybody can get a truck. Right. So what is it that we do? Right? How do we answer that question? When it comes up on a cold call, well, what's different than you than other 25 people that just called me today? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you definitely got to make yourself stand out. And I think with everything you just read off, these are good things to kind of notate, because if all these other shippers are putting their feedback out there, like we just read off, how do you kind of decipher that maybe to an email or to a cold call? Because I think that would definitely make you sound different. If these shippers are going through, I guarantee everyone else is probably going through that same stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think you can really make yourself different by utilizing, stats like that. Yeah. And how can you bring that to their attention? And then how do you make yourself different?
Yeah. And you got to make yourself different. And I think the reason why you got to make yourself different, so 75% will move on if you're too cheap with your rate. Shocking.
Sarcasm. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, Chris? Good to see you, man. I don't know if you've checked out this 2024 Inbound Logistics Perspective Report, but interesting numbers to see and break down. It's always interesting. Everyone's like, well, price will get you to the table, but service will keep you there. I remember, oh my gosh, there were some old school shipping managers back in the day. This is when prospecting is, me knocking on doors like a vacuum salesman. There were just some grouchy old shipping managers back in the day. Now it's a lot more sophisticated. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
A lot more sophisticated.
That's fair to say. Well, I'm glad we talked through that. I know today we're talking pipeline and how to amplify, how to get more active, right? So I know you got an article here, but when I was reading through the article over your shoulder this morning, I think what really stood out to me was everything comes down to discipline. I know we'll talk through this, but that to me is just like the number one is discipline, especially for the people that we talk to that are working from home by themselves. They're probably watching YouTube videos and, trying to just, up their game a little bit.
Yeah.
It all comes down to discipline at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Absolutely.
It is super hard because obviously with all the stats you just read off, still a terrible market. Can't find a customer. We hear it all, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's read through this article here and we'll talk through how do we amplify our pipeline? Let's get things moving.
For a couple things, I guess identifying the difference between this is interesting about brokerages or brokers or anybody that's in sales, is we all deal with sort of that busyness constant that happens, right? It's that weird buzzing in your ear of the white noise that just you're always busy, right? You're always, well, I probably should prospect this guy, and then, let me look him up, and then maybe make a call, and I got to get on LinkedIn and read some LinkedIn posts, and I better post something on LinkedIn, and a lot of brokers are busy, What's going on, DIY? What's up, brother?
Morning, man.
Adam's good to see you and hear from you. I hope all is well. But I got to say, understanding the difference between being busy and being effective are probably one of the more interesting things. And for me, and especially because my mind is just friggin' all over the damn place, right? Just like every other broker here, right? Is I think it's more important in today's world to shut off things and be present and tackle that one thing, right? Trying to multitask. I remember being in an interview when I was like 16, 17, and I was like at the local CD place.
The store?
Yeah, On Cue is what it was called, and just in case anyone remembers this. And I remember this cat, and he goes, hey, Jared, it's really important to work at the CD store. You have to be able to multitask. And I remember answering the question as a typical 16-year-old would. I said, well, I can get one thing done at a time. I don't mind helping customers. That's what I feel confident in doing. You want me to stop what I'm doing and help this guy? That's what I'll do. I have no issue with that. But I didn't answer the question, can you multitask?
Right.
And the more that I look at multitasking, I'd rather not be an inch deep and a mile wide. I'd rather be that mile deep. And I think being present, number one thing in your pipeline is getting the right mindset.
Right.
But secondly, taking the moment to actually go, I've got to block off an hour of my time to actually go do the research and go, literally, I'm going to go find the right people. Right.
Now, when you were selling jewelry back in the day, how difficult was it to multitask, or how difficult was it to kind of focus on that one thing? Did you see it? Were you struggling with any of that when you were selling jewelry? Or
that's funny you say that. Luckily, cell phones weren't a thing. Does this make sense?
You always date yourself.
I do. I know.
He doesn't even have gray hair on his head.
I swear. But luckily, cell phones weren't allowed on the sales floor. I did have a cell phone, but they didn't have cell phones out there to like
TikTok
check and scan things and all this crap. Right, heaven forbid we have a tag, right? It's even no different than prospecting. Back in the day, you could actually get into, funny enough, this is a newer thing. Yellow Pages actually went online, and I could find people through Yellow Pages online, right? .com. But back in the day, I had to focus wholly on that customer.
Right.
If that customer saw that I was looking around and looking at other people, I didn't connect with them well, right? So taking the time in your prospecting to not only be present, but you've got to block off time.
Right.
Yesterday, I got an opportunity to block off an hour of my time with the broker, and we made quite a few calls. We connected with some really good people. We started to fill that pipeline, right? However, we were really, really specific about what we were looking for and what we could do to help them with possibly a problem. Right. And so I think that was, number one, you got to set prospecting time, and you got to set it aside so you can be present in that aspect. Number two is we get this question all the time. We get this constantly. Well, who do I put in my pipeline? Who should I be calling? Now at eCarrier Check, we show you leads by equipment. We show you leads by industry. And the reason why we do that is just sheerly because you should focus on what you're good at.
Right. So people are struggling with, the size of the company, maybe they should go after, or maybe the equipment. So there's ways to, I don't know the wording for it, but it's trying to make sure that these are the people I'm more comfortable with talking to. And I think, one thing too, you mentioned when you were selling jewelry is taking the time to build that out. When you had a customer come in, you had that technology to say, okay, this is what they're interested in. This is what reminded me of them. And kind of when they walked in, you knew what they liked. And I think that's with brokering or anyone in sales is taking the actual time to put those leads into that system.
Yeah.
What type of equipment are they utilizing? What are they moving? What's their commodity? Who's maybe you write down the gatekeeper's name. So when you call in next time, you remember it right away.
Yeah.
There's little things you can throw in there.
Yeah.
I think it's just taking the time to build out that pipeline.
Absolutely.
If you're depending on what you use, it's Excel or if you have any other system.
I'll give you a perfect example of this. I had the opportunity to listen in on a call. This would have been early this week. First thing Monday morning, this guy's like, hey, can you just listen in on this call? Don't say anything, just listen. No problem. He has been chasing this whale. I'm going to put it as a whale. They have 35,000 worldwide employees. He has been chasing this whale for months, right?
Jeez.
And he got to the decision maker, which was awesome. And the decision maker told him, I'll give you 15 minutes. It was.
If that doesn't raise some anxiety, I don't know.
It was insane. This guy's been working for months. He thinks it's a whale. He's in the friggin' boat and he's wanting to harpoon this thing.
And you get 15 minutes.
And you get 15 minutes. And the guy starts off the conversation in the first 60 seconds. We're not adding brokers. I know you talked to this person. We have a company policy that we're not adding brokers, right? And
where do you go with that?
And yeah, honestly, the guy was already had his mind made up, right? You're not going to change it. You're not going to change what his boss is telling him to do, right? He wasn't the VP, but he was the director of all logistics for this company, right? Okay. So we get done with the call, and he goes, man, and you could tell he was defeated, you know. And I said, well, what's the next one? And he goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, instead of going after a company of 35,000 employees, why don't you go after somebody that's at 15,000 employees or 5,000 employees? There's another guy that's biting at this guy's heels, right? And so when you're trying to fill up your pipeline, right, not only should you be clear with, you know, okay, this is an industry I like, this is the equipment that I like, maybe start looking at how big are these companies, right? You should be going after multiple sizes of companies within your pipeline, right? If we as drivers can't multitask, we'd never get anything done. That's a valid point. Yeah, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. I don't even call you drivers. I'm a big fan of calling you professional drivers because you guys have an amazing skill. Tire Killer, what's up, brother? It's good to see you on. I hope you've been well.
But yeah, back to what you're saying.
I can't get enough of Tire Killer.
I know, I love the guy.
He needs to take a freaking vacation. Every week he gets on. He's like, fuck, I need to get a vacation. Sorry, I just dropped the F-bomb. Nate's dad, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
But yeah. I think understanding, you know, you got to move on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
There's something in this article that I read too as well was you may not like it. You don't have to like it. But you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously that call didn't go as expected. Didn't like that. But let's move on to the next one. You know, we're in the industry, like you said. You can no longer say we got trucks in your area. You're really not at that point right now to where that first call you're going to land someone unless someone's super desperate. Yeah. So it's that follow-up game is going to be key.
Here's what I did notice that got people's attention very quickly. And I thought this was kind of interesting coming back from this is kind of old school me in the LTL world. I would walk into door after door after door. Hey, what do you got for freight in this area? And LTL guys were like, we had a map. It was awesome. So we had this map, and it was dark yellow where we actually went with our trucks, and light yellow where we went with our interline trucks, and all this stuff. But you were really, it was kind of a needle in a haystack. You know, R&L, this nationwide company, right, has this on the back of their trailers. It says, pick up anywhere, anytime, any place, right? Which is probably maybe true to a certain extent. But I think what shippers want to hear more than ever, and what rung through yesterday and in the last few weeks as we've been making calls, is being really, really specific. Hey, you know what? I focus on freight that's on I-80, specifically between these 4 areas. What do you got in the area? And it was interesting. People opened up a lot quicker than, hey, I got trucks in your area. Right. More people opened up yesterday than I've heard for quite a while, but I was being really, really focused on a niche and a niche in an area. Okay. And it was phenomenal. In fact, I bet those 3 clients or 3 prospects become clients if there's continual follow-up over the next 6 months.
And I think that's where it gets lost, man. That's where it's just that continuous follow-up. And a lot of people that I talk with, you know, they're new to the industry. They're, well, what does that next follow-up even look like? What's it sound like? Right. You know, so I get it. You know, it's like, what do I say? But, you know, as we read off things like stats and articles like this should give you enough content to put up on that next email. Yeah.
The next email sounds like this, okay? The first issue is that everyone's got trucks in their areas. Yep. The second issue is I'm just checking in, right? both of those things have to go away at this point. Nobody gives a damn if you're just checking in, right? We need to ask a better question at the top of this list. Hey, I'm doing some research on this. I've got this issue. See if they can help you. You know what I mean? See if they can help push along a project. The second follow-up should not be I'm checking in. The second project should be trying to build value or asking them for assistance or an idea on something that you're working on in that area, right? Hey, I've been talking to these trucks and these are some of the issues they're having. What are you seeing from a shipper's perspective? Let's have an open question that they wouldn't mind talking about.
Right.
Not checking in.
Yeah.
Don't be a transaction. We've got to take it from transactions to consultants. And in that consultative sort of sale has got to become a norm for brokers out there, for dispatchers out there, for all those people that identify the problems that these shippers or trucks are having, right? If a dispatcher is watching today, right, these guys are trying to call carriers and solve a problem, right? It's all about time. How do I find more time in my day, right? And this is what dispatchers solve. Well, what are they selling, right? Is it a transaction? Well, I'll take 3%, 6%, 7%, whatever it is, right? So we've got to switch that gear, right? So the first one is we got to set prospecting time. We've got to take the moment, set it in our calendar, go away from the average day and come in there. Something I'm really struggling with, this is kind of interesting, but the place that we go work out, right, is, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, is the place that we go work out is under construction right now. It kind of is pissing me off.
God. Can't hit the sun.
I don't know if I really want to talk about it. It's going to piss me off. But guess what I got? I got a bike from 1994 on my back patio. Here's what I'm struggling with is to get in the mindset of working on my body when I go to my home where I feel like I should be relaxing.
100%. Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
This is why so many people, they buy all these machines. I've seen a couple weight room setups and gyms that I'm like, holy buckets, look at that.
Right.
And then you see the guy, he's not jacked and, right. We all struggle with discipline. This is how it works, right? We struggle with that mindset. So number one, find a different place to prospect than you do in your day-to-day. And if you're working at home, then guess what? Go to a different room. Go outside, go into your gym, go somewhere, anywhere else, but you've got to find a different way. Number two is we got to be really extremely clear on who we're calling and why we're calling them, right? And number three is our follow-up has got to be consultative it's got to be in there. Juan, what's up, brother? It's good to see you.
What's up, Tigger? Thanks for being here. Man?
Cheap Freight on. I'm a big fan of this dude, too. I like this guy. So those are my thoughts when it comes to, we're prospecting. We're not just following up. We don't just have trucks in your area. If you're a dispatcher and you're watching this, do things that are different than every other dispatcher. They're just going on a load board and finding you a load. Here's what I do. And go, here's how my last case resort is I go on the load boards and try to find you. My first case resort is I'm going to try to plan out my week with you. And we're going to reach out to brokers that are in those local areas and see if we can actually start building local relationships. And in 6 weeks, my goal is to have this in place so that we're not going to the load boards, but we're actually going to these 5 different truck or brokers that actually have loads in the areas that you like to go to. And that's my goal is I would like to see an increase of revenue per mile by 13% in 6 weeks. Boy, that sounds neat.
Yeah.
And brokers, you need to do the same exact thing, but just for shippers, right? And you start working through, hey, here's how I'm different as a broker. I use a digital platform called the eCarrier Check that helps me source carriers that are not only vetted and de-risked from potentially being double brokered, but these are people like Tire Killer. These are people like friggin' Cheap Freight Hauler. These are people that are out there that actually give a damn, that take care of their equipment. Those are the people picking up your freight. And that's my goal, right? Now, if I get in an emergency, maybe I use the load board. But right now, my goal is in 6 weeks, I'm going to build up a relationship with these 100 carriers. And here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to focus on this specific area. Boy, it sounds neat to be different.
It does, yeah. And I know you said a lot there, but if you're doing this through email, there's a way to shorten it up and get direct with it.
Yes.
I'll be honest, no one wants to read a couple paragraph email. Shipping managers probably
Right.
don't have the damn time.
Right.
So everything you just said, you can scrunch it up into maybe break it off. This is how I do things.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's get some time together to set up a Zoom call or whatever it may be. But I think you got to keep your email short and to the point, and keep your subject line, not too spammy or annoying or whatever. But and that, like you said, back to the mindset. Like I'd be interested in how many people are working from home today.
Uh-huh.
But we are dropping a video here soon this month or next on pacing.
Mm.
If you are working from home, I've worked from home. I sucked at it.
It was terrible to stay disciplined.
Yeah, it was terrible. Like, the pandemic definitely just wasn't for me, and working from home wasn't for me. But if I would have known this earlier, I would definitely went on more walks on a phone call or getting out of the house. But if you're working from home, you definitely got to find what works for you. Pushing it to tomorrow, not a good idea.
Right.
Because someone's doing it right now when you're pushing it to the next day. I promise you, that's how this industry is, a dog-eat-dog world.
Oh, my God.
Obviously, sales is like that overall, but I just think you got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks.
The number one, you said it, you have to do it. Keep in mind the number one goal of prospecting, of cold emailing, of cold calling. Not only is it to break through that negative barrier of you're always going to get a negative response. You just interrupted their day. Right. The number one goal is to just get an appointment to add some value to what they do. Right. And that's what we're trying to shoot for. When we're prospecting, the goal is this. I like to tell my kids, this is something that I think helps me relate well to my kids. I think. I'll ask them later in life when they're going through a counselor. But when I ask them to give me 5 minutes of their time, and I tell them that, hey, the 5 minutes that you're going to be doing, instead of me going, hey, I need you to go do your laundry, I ask them for, hey, give me 5 minutes of your time. And the goal isn't to just go put your clothes away. The goal is to take some stress off mom so she doesn't have to do the friggin' clothes for you. Right? So I like to relate to what the end goal is so that people understand that to go from here to here, I do this in the middle, but this is my goal. And so it's really important in your mind that the only way to get through that tunnel is you got to be able to see some light, right? And so setting those goals, hey, I'm going to try to get 5 appointments next week. 1 a day. How do I get there? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Sales, unfortunately, is a numbers game. And so we have to continue to turn stones over.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan too of just time blocking too. Like maybe you do 15 minutes of prospecting or adding to your list, or 15 minutes of cold calling in the morning, 15 in the afternoon. Like, don't go crazy. You don't have to go crazy.
Absolutely,
you just got to do it.
Yeah.
What's up, Jerome?
God, any inspection yet, brother? How you been?
My discipline problem is getting my computer work done, putting my runs in my truck. Yeah, I mean, I bet it's tough. You're on the road all day. You got to get this done.
Right.
Not easy.
This is no different than my house.
Right.
Tire Killer essentially works from home.
Right.
Except for his home moves at 70 mile an hour down the friggin' road pulling a 40,000 pound load, right?
Yeah.
It is tough to get the mindset right. Well, I'm working. Well, now I want to relax. Well, now I got to actually work, right? And work in the trucking world is defined by how many hours you can put in. So in your mind, well, I just drove 10 hours. I don't want to spend another hour friggin' doing paperwork.
Right.
Son of a bitch, right? Clearing that mind, going for a walk, and setting up a 15-minute window discipline is huge. I even tell my kids this, and I love talking about my kids. To become an expert, you just have to spend 18 minutes a day at one thing, and in 1 year's time, you'll become an expert. 18 minutes a day. That's it, right? Now, sometimes that gets excessive with some of the video games. I'm not going to talk about it if you're watching.
Come on, NCAA football game just dropped.
Oh my gosh, it's hot too. I love it. Yeah. I can't get enough of it. So these are my prospecting ideas, my thoughts. Nate, I think we covered off on a lot here to soak in.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, this is stuff that you read on, that I personally read on LinkedIn every day, all day.
Yep.
You see, Ed Burns on there talking this stuff. Just everyone. I mean, there's everyone that I follow. They're talking this stuff over and over and over every day. And what I love about them, they make it's realistic. They've been through this stuff. and they're putting it out there for everyone for free content. You just got to go and soak it in and do it.
Yeah.
That's in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm first to say, there's days where I don't want to do shit either. Like, but that's why you and I are now writing our goals on the board and we're crossing things off and, holding each other accountable. I'm blessed to have you right here to help me do that.
Yeah,
and the dev guys.
Same here.
So like, if you're doing this on your own, reach out to us. Let us know how we can help you, or maybe write some things on your mirror in your bathroom, whatever it may be. But you got to find a way to get in that mindset.
Yeah.
To just do it.
Writing your goals down and trying to get a habit started is tough.
Oh God. Yeah.
And no different than my brother when he started to tackle his health. Right. He drove to the gym just to start the habit. He didn't actually go in. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He just drove to the gym every day after work. Drive to the gym. He didn't go in. Mm-hmm. He just did that for 2 weeks until he got to a point where he's like, well, I'm here. I may as well go in.
Let's go get the smell of the room.
Yeah. And so he started just to kind of all of a sudden start to be a part of it, right? So building that habit up, I love it. 18 minutes, I'm an expert at lollygagging and dilly-dallying. I would say that I am potentially, I am an expert level with TikTok. There's my issue. All of a sudden, I'm 40 minutes in, and I'm like, son of a bitch. There's nothing wrong with being an expert at lollygagging. I appreciate that.
You gotta have some fun during your day too.
Lollygagging and dilly-dallying. I
feel
like
we should some time around to do that.
We should start a software company called that.
Chief Ray Holler.
I love it.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for your support and for allowing us to do this. Make sure you check out ecarrycheck.com. Find your next shipper there today. Pick up the phone and let's get after it.
Let's just go.
So make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll